Howdy everyone. So as you can see, I've got the fuselage now flipped right side up, and of course that means that I am obviously done with the floor that I was putting in our laundry room. That is now complete. I've got the shop cleaned back up. I've got the tools rearranged back for aircraft construction, if you will. And it wasn't too long ago that I went ahead and flipped the fuselage right side up. I have it sitting on these plastic tubs. They're very, very sturdy. I've got multiples of them stacked, one on top of the other. And I've got a towel on the floor, not only to protect the floor, but mainly so I can slide the fuselage around if I have to move it. And then I've got a towel between the plastic tubs and the underneath of the fuselage. So I've got a stack here. I've got a stack on the other side. And then I've got a makeshift stack of things for the tail. The other good thing about using these towels, they make for good shims when you go to level the fuselage. You can fold them up to make them thicker. You can add more to make them thicker. You can unfold them to make them thinner, or whatever you need to do. So it's not ideal, but it actually works for me really well considering my work environment and what I had handy available to make this happen. Ooh, that's a hard glare. So like I said, it might not be ideal for most people, but it works for me and it's incredibly solid. So I'm good with that. And I have leveled it, so this is sitting the way that it needs to be to move on to the next phase, which is the aft deck plate. So as you can see, I've got my trusty blue rod, which is nothing more than a 1-inch square aluminum tube. And then I've got my level, my bubble level on that, and I've got my digital level on that. So here you can see the bubble level is level, and I've got my digital level set to 0. And if I take the digital level and I run it back here to the tail, here's the setup for the tail. Nothing fancy, but again, it's very stable and it works for me. Deck plate's on, level is in place. I'll try to balance this up here again. It'd be nice if you could see what I'm doing. Okay, and you can see that the level is level and the digital level is 0. So I am going to take partial credit for that, but I believe the majority of the credit belongs to Vans because, again, with everything pre-punched, it's just a matter of edge finishing, deburring, dimpling, countersinking, and putting it together. Once you do that, it kind of self-aligns, in my opinion. Now, I do go out of my way to make sure that things are correct and things are in alignment and things are perpendicular, plumb, and all that good stuff, but to have this work out like it has with 0 twist right out of the gate with absolutely no adjustment is impressive, at least to me. But again, I'm not going to take full credit for that. One thing that I believe helps is you'll notice I've got the longeron still only clecoed. Both longerons are only clecoed. And I think that that helps a little bit because if you can imagine when you're at the tail and you twist the tail, I believe that these longerons are going to shift fore and aft ever so slightly. So without them being locked in with rivets, you have a little bit more of adjustment in the back. And I also believe that if you've got the front end secured level, the fuselage overall is going to try to take a natural set and kind of untwist itself anyway. That's kind of a stretch. It might be a pretty lame theory, but I believe it does help to only do clecos at this point because I think it gives you a little bit more adjustment back here if you need it to untwist the fuselage, because the longerons are a little bit more free to slide back and forth, and you've got a little bit of adjustment. Not proven, just a thought. You might want to consider it. Anywho, more than pleased, of course, that there is no twist in this fuselage. So I'm going to go ahead and start laying out this deck plate. One thing I wanted to make note of, I've got so this deck plate gets locked in between these ears here. So what I'd like to do is maintain spacing from the edge of the deck plate to the edge of the skin. Whatever that dimension is, I want to maintain that on both sides. So I basically want to center the deck plate left and right in relation to the sides of the fuselage here and here. Once that is established, when I come up to the front, you can see I basically have no gap here, and I've got quite a bit of space here, and I can fix that purely by moving the deck plate around like this. Now that does move the fuselage a little bit. It actually twists the fuselage ever so slightly. However, when I look at my bubble and my digital level, when I make that movement, it doesn't impart any kind of real change on the level status. The level doesn't affect the level. Let's leave it at that. So at this point, all I'm going to do is, again, make sure that this is maintained, this spacing is maintained here, whatever this distance is. I've got the same distance on this side because it's pinned here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing at this front corner. I'm going to move this around till I get the spacing I want so that it's even on both sides. Clamp it in place. Do a couple holes. Cleco it, and then just verify that spacing back here is still good. And then I'll clamp it, drill a couple holes, Cleco it, keep checking it, check for level, and then ultimately, of course, do all the holes. So that's where I'm at. And I believe that's where I'm going to end it for the night. And I believe I'll end it for this video as well. So we're back to building. Housework is finished. Floors are done. So we're going to go back to building some aircraft. And I will talk to you guys later.